The deep space research vessel New Horizon drifted silently through the void near the Kepler 442 system. Dr. Amanda Stone pressed her face against the observation window in the science lab and watched the stars slowly turn as the ship rotated. She had been studying the strange energy readings for 3 days now and still could not make sense of them. "Amanda, you need to see this," called Kevin Park from his station at the communications console. The young man's voice carried excitement, mixed with concern. Amanda walked over to where Kevin sat surrounded by blinking screens and tangled wires. "What did you find?" she asked, leaning over his shoulder to look at the display. "It's not natural," Kevin said, pointing to the wave patterns on his screen. "These energy signatures are definitely artificial. There's something big out there. And it's not from Earth." Amanda felt her heart rate increase. After 15 years of deep space exploration, humanity had found traces of alien technology before, but nothing like this. The readings showed a massive object about 2 million kilometers away, hidden in the shadow of a dead planet. "Have you told the captain?" Amanda asked. "Not yet. I wanted to run more tests first, but I think we need to investigate this now." Amanda nodded and activated the ship's communication system. "Captain Morrison to the bridge. Priority 1. Captain Jake Morrison arrived within minutes, his gray hair still messy from sleep. The man had commanded deep space missions for over 20 years, but Amanda could see the same excitement in his eyes that she felt. Behind him came Commander Lisa Burke, the ship's security chief, whose serious expression never seemed to change. "Show me what you found," Morrison said. Kevin pulled up the sensor data on the main screen. The energy readings painted a picture of something enormous and clearly artificial. The object appeared to be a ship, but its design was unlike anything in human records. "How big is it?" Morrison asked. "About 3 kilometers long," Kevin replied. "But Captain, there's something else. The energy output is very low, like it's running on emergency power or maybe in some kind of sleep mode." Commander Burke stepped forward. "Could be a trap. We should maintain distance and observe. Or it could be our first real chance to learn about alien technology," Amanda said. "If that ship is damaged or abandoned, we might be able to board it safely." Morrison studied the readings for several minutes. Amanda knew he was weighing the risks against the potential discoveries. First contact with an alien species was something every deep space explorer dreamed about, but it was also incredibly dangerous. "Prepare a boarding party," Morrison finally decided. "Commander Burke, you'll lead the team. Take Dr. Stone for scientific analysis and Ryan Hayes for security. Kevin, you're coming too in case we need to interface with their communication systems." "Sir, I recommend we try to establish communication first," Burke said. "Agreed, but keep the boarding party ready. If that ship is as damaged as it appears, there might not be anyone left to talk to." 2 hours later, the New Horizon moved carefully toward the alien vessel. As they got closer, Amanda could see the ship's strange design through the observation windows. It was long and sleek, with a dark metal surface that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered the hull, and several sections showed obvious damage from what looked like weapons fire. "No response to our communication attempts," Kevin reported. "But I'm detecting very faint life signs. Something is alive over there." Morrison made his decision. "Boarding party, suit up. We're going in." Amanda felt nervous excitement as she put on her spacesuit. The thick material always made her feel clumsy, but she had trained for this moment her entire career. Ryan Hayes, the security chief, checked his weapons while Commander Burke reviewed the mission parameters one more time. "Remember, we're explorers first," Burke told the team. "We observe, we document, and we stay safe. If anything goes wrong, we retreat immediately." The shuttle bay doors opened, and their small craft launched toward the alien ship. Amanda watched through the shuttle's windows as they approached what appeared to be a docking bay. The alien ship's systems seemed to recognize their approach, because the bay doors opened automatically. "That's either very welcoming or very concerning," Ryan muttered. They docked without incident, and the boarding party stepped into the alien ship. Amanda immediately noticed that the gravity felt normal, and her instruments showed the atmosphere was breathable, though they kept their suits on for safety. The corridor walls were covered with the same strange symbols they had seen on the hull. "The life signs are coming from deeper in the ship," Kevin said, checking his scanner. "This way." They moved carefully through the corridors, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Amanda recorded everything with her portable scanner, noting the advanced materials and unknown technology built into the walls. The ship's design suggested a species that was both highly advanced and very different from humans. They found the source of the life signs in what appeared to be a medical bay. Inside a strange cylindrical chamber filled with glowing blue liquid, a creature floated in what looked like suspended animation. It was humanoid in basic shape, but clearly alien, with pale gray skin, an elongated head, and features that seemed somehow predatory. "It's beautiful," Amanda whispered, studying the sleeping alien. "Look at the bone structure, the way the limbs are proportioned. This species evolved completely differently from humans. Is it dangerous?" Ryan asked, his hand near his weapon. "There's no way to know until it wakes up," Amanda replied. "But look at its head. The skull is much larger than a human's, and these bone ridges suggest enhanced brain capacity. This species is probably very intelligent." Kevin was studying the chamber's controls. "I think I can figure out how to wake it up. The symbols are complex, but there's a pattern here." "Do it," Burke decided. "We need to try to communicate." Kevin worked at the controls for several minutes before the blue liquid began to drain from the chamber. The alien's eyes opened suddenly, revealing bright silver orbs that seemed to glow with their own light. It sat up slowly, looking around the room with obvious confusion. When its gaze fell on the humans, something changed in its expression. Amanda saw intelligence there, but also something that made her uncomfortable. The alien's eyes seemed to look through her rather than at her, as if it was trying to see inside her mind. The creature stood up from the chamber with fluid grace. When it spoke, the words came not from its mouth, but directly into their minds, causing all four humans to step back in shock. "Inferior beings," the voice said in their heads. "You dare to wake Zexthal, Mindwalker of the Zilithian Empire? Your chaotic thoughts assault my consciousness like the screaming of animals." Amanda tried to speak, but Zexthal raised one long-fingered hand, and she felt a pressure against her mind that made her gasp. The alien's silver eyes fixed on her with sudden interest. "You," it said, focusing entirely on Amanda. "You're mental. Patterns are particularly offensive. I shall correct this disorder and learn what I need to know about your primitive species." Before anyone could react, Zexthal's eyes flared with bright silver light, and Amanda felt something alien and hostile forcing its way into her mind. Amanda's body collapsed to the floor of the alien medical bay as Zexthal's consciousness invaded her mind. Ryan Hayes immediately raised his weapon, but Commander Burke grabbed his arm. "Don't shoot," Burke commanded. "We might hit Amanda." "Kevin." Park frantically worked at his scanner, trying to understand what was happening. "The alien is doing something to her brain. I'm reading massive neural activity from both of them." Inside Amanda's mind, Zexthal expected to find the simple, organized thoughts he had encountered in dozens of other species. Instead, he found himself standing in what felt like the middle of a violent storm. Thoughts and memories swirled around him like hurricane winds, each one carrying emotional weight that hit him like physical blows. What is this chaos? Zexthal spoke into the mental storm, but his voice was immediately lost in the noise of human consciousness. He tried to move forward, seeking the center of Amanda's mind where he could take control, but every step brought new confusion. Memories of Amanda's childhood in Portland rushed past him like flying debris. He saw her as a 6-year-old girl, crying because her pet hamster had died, and the grief struck him so hard he staggered. Zexthal's species had eliminated strong emotions thousands of years ago, viewing them as obstacles to pure thought. But human emotions were not obstacles. They were woven into every memory, every decision, every moment of consciousness. He watched Amanda's memory of her first day of school, feeling her mixture of excitement and fear as if it were his own. "This is impossible," he gasped, trying to shield himself from the emotional impact. No species maintains such disorder in their minds. He pressed deeper into Amanda's memories, seeking something he could understand. He found her years at Stanford University, studying xenobiology with passionate dedication. But even her scientific thoughts were colored with emotion. Wonder at the mysteries of life, frustration with difficult concepts, joy at moments of discovery. Zexthal watched Amanda's memory of the day she learned that her mother had cancer. The human woman had been in her laboratory when she received the phone call, and the alien experienced the moment as Amanda had lived it. The way her hands shook as she held the phone, the crushing weight in her chest, the way the scientific equations on her whiteboard suddenly seemed meaningless. "Stop this," Zexthal demanded, but the memories continued to flow around him. He saw Amanda visiting her mother in the hospital, holding the older woman's hand while they both pretended to be strong. He felt Amanda's determination to find meaning in her work, to discover something important that would justify the time she spent away from her dying mother. The alien tried to push past these emotional memories to find pure information, but every fact in Amanda's mind was connected to feelings. Her knowledge of biology was linked to her sense of wonder at life's complexity. Her memories of space exploration were tied to her excitement about discovering new worlds. Even her scientific training was colored by her love for her professors and her competitive desire to prove herself. Meanwhile, back in the medical bay, Amanda's body was showing signs of distress. Kevin monitored her vital signs while Ryan kept his weapon trained on the motionless alien. Commander Burke spoke urgently into her communication device. "Captain Morrison, we need immediate medical assistance. Dr. Stone is in some kind of coma, and the alien appears to be causing it." Morrison's voice crackled through the speaker. "Medical team is on the way. Can you break the connection?" "We don't know how," Burke replied. "The alien isn't responding to external stimuli." Dr. Paul Chun arrived with the medical team, his face pale with worry as he saw Amanda's unconscious form. He had worked with Amanda for 3 years, and their professional relationship had slowly grown into something more personal, though neither had admitted their feelings. "What happened to her?" Paul asked, kneeling beside Amanda and checking her pulse. "The alien did something to her mind," Kevin explained. "They seemed to be mentally connected." Paul's medical scanner showed Amanda's brain activity was off the charts. Her neural patterns are completely abnormal. It's like her mind is running at triple normal speed. Inside Amanda's consciousness, Zexthal was becoming increasingly disoriented. He had entered the minds of warriors, scientists, and leaders from a dozen different species, but none of them had prepared him for the complexity of human thought. He found himself in Amanda's memory of her first space mission 5 years ago. She had been terrified and excited at the same time, a combination of emotions that made no sense to the alien. Zexthal watched as Amanda stood at the observation window of her first deep space vessel, looking out at the stars with tears in her eyes. Beautiful and terrible, Amanda had whispered to herself in that memory. So much emptiness, but so much possibility. Zexthal could not understand how humans could find beauty in emptiness or possibility in the unknown. His species valued only certainty, and control. But as he experienced Amanda's memory, he felt something he had never felt before, a strange longing for something beyond his understanding. He tried to shake off the feeling and continue his search for useful information. He found Amanda's memories of her scientific training, her knowledge of human technology and culture. But accessing this information required him to experience the emotions attached to it. He saw Amanda's memory of the day she decided to become a xenobiologist. She had been 12 years old, reading a book about the possibility of life on other worlds. The idea had filled her with such wonder and excitement that she had run to tell her parents, her face glowing with joy. "I want to meet them," the young Amanda had said. "I want to understand how they think and how they live." Zexthol realized with growing horror that Amanda's desire to understand alien life included understanding him, even as he violated her mind. Part of her consciousness was studying him, trying to comprehend his thoughts and motivations. "You are curious about me," he said to the swirling memories around him. "Even as I invade your mind, you want to learn from me." The storm of Amanda's consciousness seemed to respond to his words. Memories of her scientific training organized themselves around him, showing him how humans approached the unknown. They did not conquer it or control it. They tried to understand it. Zexthol saw Amanda's memory of dissecting her first alien specimen, a simple creature from a moon of Jupiter. She had worked for hours, carefully documenting every detail, speaking softly to the dead creature, as if it could hear her. "Thank you for teaching us," she had whispered. "I promise we'll learn everything we can from you." The alien realized that Amanda's approach to discovery was fundamentally different from his own. Where he sought to dominate and control, she sought to understand and appreciate. The difference was so profound that it challenged everything he believed about intelligence and consciousness. He tried to retreat from her memories, but found himself lost in the maze of human thought. Every path he took led to new complexities, new emotions, new ways of thinking that his mind was not equipped to process. Amanda's memory of her mother's death surrounded him suddenly, and he experienced the full weight of human grief. He felt Amanda's desperation as she watched her mother's life slip away, her anger at the universe for allowing such suffering, and her determination to find meaning in the loss. "How do you function with such pain?" Zexthol asked a storm of memories. The answer came not in words, but in another memory. Amanda working late in her laboratory, just days after her mother's funeral, tears streaming down her face as she studied samples from a distant world. She was not working despite her grief, but because of it, using her pain as fuel for her dedication to understanding life in all its forms. Zexthol began to understand that human consciousness was not chaotic at all. It was complex beyond his species' comprehension. Every emotion, every memory, every thought was connected to every other in ways that created strength rather than weakness. As this realization dawned on him, he felt Amanda's consciousness beginning to fight back, no longer passive but actively, resisting his intrusion. The storm of her thoughts was organizing itself around him, not to destroy him, but to understand him so completely that his invasion would become impossible. For the first time in his long life, Zexthol, the Mindwalker of the Zilithian Empire, felt afraid. Amanda's consciousness had been passive during the initial invasion, but now it was fully awake and aware of the alien presence in her mind. Zexthol found himself facing something he had never encountered before, a mind that was actively studying him even as he tried to dominate it. "You are afraid," Amanda's voice echoed through the mental storm around him. "I can feel your fear." "I am Zexthol," the alien replied, trying to project the authority that had always worked before. "I am the Mindwalker, the one who shapes consciousness. I do not fear." "Everyone fears something," Amanda's voice replied gently. "Even you." The alien tried to push deeper into Amanda's mind, seeking the core of her consciousness, where he could establish control. But instead of finding what he expected, he discovered something far more disturbing, layers of thought that went deeper than individual memory. He found himself in what humans called the subconscious, where primal fears and ancient memories lived. Here, the storm of Amanda's mind became something darker and more dangerous. Zexthal saw visions of humanity's violent past, wars, hunts, survival struggles that had shaped the species for millions of years. "This is the part of human mind you did not expect," Amanda's voice said, now carrying an edge of strength. "We remember everything, even things that happened before we were born." Zexthal watched in horror as Amanda's genetic memory showed him scenes of early humans fighting for survival on Earth. He saw ancestors who had faced predators with nothing but rocks and sticks, who had survived ice ages and plagues, who had learned to find hope in the darkest moments. "Your species eliminates emotions because you think they make you weak," Amanda continued. "But emotions are what made us strong. Fear kept us alive. Anger helped us fight. Love made us protect each other." The alien encountered a memory that was not Amanda's own, but belonged to her great-grandmother, a woman who had survived the Great Depression. He felt the old woman's determination to feed her family, even when there was no food, her refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. "Impossible," Zexthal gasped. "Individual minds cannot contain the experiences of others." "Human minds can," Amanda replied. "We carry our ancestors with us. Every human contains the wisdom of those who came before." Zexthal tried to escape this deeper level of human consciousness, but Amanda's mind had become a labyrinth designed to trap him. Every path he took led to new challenges, new ways of thinking that his rigid mental structure could not process. He found himself in Amanda's memory of reading about human heroes throughout history, people who had faced impossible odds and refused to surrender. He experienced her childhood fascination with explorers who had ventured into unknown territories, scientists who had dedicated their lives to understanding the universe, and ordinary people who had done extraordinary things. "Why do you cherish those who suffered?" Zexthal asked, confused by the reverence Amanda felt for people who had endured hardship. "Because they showed us what we could become," Amanda replied. "They proved that humans can survive anything if we choose to keep fighting." The alien's confusion deepened as he encountered Amanda's memory of her grandmother's stories about World War II. The old woman had been a nurse during the conflict, and she had told Amanda about the soldiers she had treated, men who had been broken by war, but who had found ways to help each other heal. "Your grandmother saw the worst of humanity," Zexthal said. "War, violence, death. How did this give you strength?" "She also saw the best of humanity," Amanda replied. "She saw people who chose to help others, even when they were suffering themselves. She saw love surviving in the middle of hate." Zexthal experienced Amanda's memory of her grandmother's final words before she died. The old woman had held Amanda's hand and whispered, "Remember that no matter how dark it gets, humans always find a way to create light." Meanwhile, back in the medical bay, Dr. Paul Chung was becoming increasingly worried about Amanda's condition. Her brain activity was showing patterns he had never seen before, and her body temperature was rising dangerously. "We need to get her back to the ship," Paul told Commander Burke. "Her body can't handle this mental strain much longer." "How long before permanent damage?" Burke asked. "Maybe hours, maybe less," Paul replied grimly. "Whatever that alien is doing to her mind, it's killing her." Kevin Park had been studying the alien technology in the medical bay, trying to understand how Zexthal's mental abilities worked. "I think I'm beginning to understand their communication system," he said. "It's not just telepathy. They actually merge consciousness temporarily. Can you break the connection?" Burke asked. "I don't know," Kevin admitted. "But if we interrupt it the wrong way, we might damage both their minds permanently. Back inside Amanda's consciousness, Zexthel was discovering that human memory was not organized like the minds of other species. Instead of storing information in neat categories, humans connected everything to everything else through emotion and experience. He found himself in Amanda's memory of her first day working in space. She had been overwhelmed by the beauty of Earth from orbit, but also by the responsibility of representing her species in the exploration of unknown worlds. "I want to do this right," Amanda had whispered to herself as she looked down at her home planet. "I want to make them proud." Zexthel realized that Amanda's desire to explore space was not driven by conquest or dominance, but by a need to understand and connect. She wanted to meet other species not to control them, but to learn from them. "You still hope to understand me," the alien said with amazement. "Even as I invade your mind, you want to comprehend my thoughts." "Yes," Amanda replied simply. "That's what humans do. We try to understand what frightens us." The alien found himself in Amanda's memory of her scientific training, where she had learned to approach unknown phenomena with curiosity rather than fear. He experienced her excitement at discovering new forms of life, her dedication to understanding how different species had evolved. "Your species sends explorers to unknown worlds," Zexthel said. "Do you not fear what you might find?" "Of course we fear," Amanda replied, "but we explore anyway." Fear and curiosity can exist together. Zexthel encountered Amanda's memory of the day she had decided to cytolize in xenobiology. She had been reading about the possibility of intelligent alien life, and instead of being frightened by the idea, she had been thrilled by the possibilities. "I want to understand how different minds work," Amanda had told her professor. "I want to learn what makes other species unique." The alien began to understand that Amanda's scientific training had prepared her for this moment in ways he had not anticipated. She had spent years learning to approach unknown phenomena with systematic curiosity, to find patterns in apparent chaos, to understand rather than judge. "You are studying me even now," Zexthel realized. "You are learning from this experience." "Every experience teaches us something," Amanda replied. "Even terrible ones." The alien felt Amanda's consciousness beginning to organize itself around his presence, not to destroy him, but to understand him so completely that his invasion would become impossible. She was creating mental puzzles and paradoxes that challenged his linear thinking, using humanity's gift for creative problem-solving against him. "How do you think in so many directions at once?" Zexthel asked, overwhelmed by the complexity of human consciousness. "We don't think in one direction," Amanda replied. "We think in patterns and connections. We see how everything relates to everything else." Zexthel tried to retreat from the deeper levels of Amanda's mind, but found himself caught in a web of human thought that was too complex for his understanding. Every concept led to another, every memory connected to emotions and experiences that his species had never developed. He realized with growing panic that he was not just exploring Amanda's mind. He was becoming lost in it. The human capacity for abstract thought, for seeing connections between seemingly unrelated ideas, was creating a mental maze that his logical mind could not navigate. "Let me go," Zexthel demanded, but his voice was weak now. "I cannot let you go until you understand," Amanda replied. "You entered my mind to dominate me." But domination requires understanding, and understanding changes both the observer and the observed. The alien felt Amanda's consciousness wrapping around his like, a gentle but inescapable embrace. She was not trying to hurt him, but to teach him something that his species had never learned. That true strength came not from controlling others, but from understanding them so completely that control became unnecessary. For the first time in his long life, Zexthel began to understand why other species had called humans the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. It was not because they were violent or aggressive, but because they had the ability to transform their enemies into friends simply by understanding them. Zextil's panic was growing as he realized he was becoming lost in the maze of Amanda's consciousness. Every attempt to find an exit led him deeper into the complex web of human thought and memory. The alien had invaded thousands of minds across the galaxy, but none had prepared him for this. You cannot escape because you do not understand the nature of human consciousness, Amanda's voice said gently within the mental storm. You expect to find a center, a core that you can dominate, but human minds do not work that way. All minds have a center, Zextil insisted, though his voice was weaker now. There must be a point of control. Human consciousness is not centralized, Amanda explained. It is distributed, connected, constantly changing. We do not have one self. We have many selves all working together. The alien found himself experiencing Amanda's memory of her college psychology classes, where she had learned about the complexity of human consciousness. He saw her fascination with the idea that human minds operated on multiple levels simultaneously. Conscious thought, unconscious processing, emotional responses, and instinctual reactions all happening at once. Your species simplified consciousness to achieve control, Amanda continued, but we embraced the complexity. That is why we are stronger than you expected. Zextil encountered Amanda's memory of her first major failure in graduate school. She had been working on a research project for months, confident in her approach, only to discover that her hypothesis was completely wrong. He felt her disappointment and frustration, but also something else, her determination to learn from the failure. You failed, and yet you continued, the alien said, confused by the memory. Why did you not abandon your research? Because failure teaches us more than success, Amanda replied. Every mistake shows us something new about how the universe works. The alien experienced Amanda's memory of staying up all night, redesigning her research project from scratch. She had been exhausted and discouraged, but also excited by the new possibilities that her failure had revealed. Your species fears failure because you see it as weakness, Amanda said. But humans see failure as information. It tells us what does not work, which helps us find what does. Zextil found himself in Amanda's memory of her mother's final days in the hospital. He felt the crushing weight of watching someone you love die slowly, the helplessness of being unable to stop the inevitable. But he also felt something else, Amanda's determination to make her mother's final days meaningful. She was dying, and you could not save her, the alien said. How did you find strength in such hopelessness? Because love is stronger than death, Amanda replied. Even when we lose someone, the love remains. It becomes part of who we are. The alien experienced Amanda's memory of her mother's funeral, where she had stood at the graveside surrounded by family and friends. He felt her grief, but also her gratitude for the time they had shared and her determination to honor her mother's memory by continuing her work. Your pain makes you stronger, Zextil said with growing amazement. You transform suffering into purpose. That is what humans do, Amanda replied. We find meaning in struggle. We create light in darkness. Meanwhile, back in the medical bay, the human crew was working frantically to understand what was happening to Amanda. Dr. Paul Chun had connected her to every monitoring device available, watching her vital signs with growing concern. Her brain activity is off the charts, Paul reported to Commander Burke. It's like she's using parts of her mind that are normally dormant. Kevin Park had been studying the alien technology, trying to understand how Zextil's mental abilities worked. I think I'm beginning to understand their neural interface, he said. It's not just telepathy. They actually merge their consciousness with their victims. Can you break the connection? Burke asked urgently. Maybe, Kevin replied. But if we do it wrong, We might damage both their minds permanently. Ryan Hayes had been monitoring the motionless alien, his weapon ready. The alien hasn't moved. In over an hour, he reported. Its vital signs are erratic. It's struggling, Paul realized. Whatever Amanda is doing to it, the alien is having trouble handling the connection. Back inside Amanda's consciousness, Zexthal was discovering that human resilience went far deeper than he had imagined. He found himself in Amanda's memory of reading about the survivors of history's greatest disasters, people who had endured concentration camps, natural disasters, and personal tragedies while maintaining their humanity. Your species has survived. Things that would destroy other civilizations, the alien said with growing respect. How is this possible? Because we support each other, Amanda replied. Humans are not strong as individuals. We are strong as a community. Zexthal experienced Amanda's memory of her first day at the Space Academy, where she had been overwhelmed by the complexity of the training. He felt her fear and self-doubt, but also her determination to prove herself worthy of representing humanity among the stars. You were afraid you would fail, the alien observed. Double quotes, yes, Amanda admitted. But I was more afraid of not trying. The alien found himself in Amanda's memory of her graduation day, where she had stood with her classmates and taken an oath to explore the universe with courage, curiosity, and compassion. He felt her pride in her achievements, but also her awareness of the responsibility she carried. You pledged to meet unknown species with compassion, Zexthal said with amazement. Even species that might be hostile. Especially those, Amanda replied. Hostility often comes from fear and misunderstanding. Compassion can bridge that gap. Zexthal encountered Amanda's memory of her grandmother's stories about the Great Depression, when people had shared their meager resources with strangers simply because it was the right thing to do. He felt Amanda's admiration for those who had chosen kindness even when they had nothing left to give. Your grandmother told you about humans who helped others when they could barely help themselves, the alien said. Why do you find this inspiring rather than foolish? Because it shows the best of what we can be, Amanda replied. It proves that humans can choose love over fear, hope over despair, compassion over selfishness. The alien found himself trapped in a memory loop where Amanda replayed her grandmother's final advice. Remember that no matter how dark it gets, humans always find a way to create light. I do not understand this concept, Zexthal admitted. How do you create light in darkness? By choosing to believe in something better, Amanda replied. By refusing to give up even when everything seems hopeless. Zexthal experienced Amanda's memory of her first successful research project, where she had discovered a new form of microbial life on a distant moon. He felt her excitement at the discovery, but also her immediate desire to share the knowledge with others. You found something new, and your first instinct was to share it, the alien observed. Not to hoard it for personal advantage. Knowledge belongs to everyone, Amanda replied. Discovery is meaningless unless it benefits others. The alien began to understand that Amanda's scientific training was not just about gathering information. It was about expanding human understanding of the universe. She saw herself as part of a continuous chain of discovery that stretched back to the first humans who had looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. You see yourself as connected to all humans who came before you, Zexthal said with growing comprehension. Their achievements become your foundation, and our achievements become the foundation for those who come after us, Amanda replied. That is how humans build progress, one generation at a time. The alien found himself in Amanda's memory of reading about the early space explorers who had risked everything to venture beyond Earth. He felt her admiration for their courage, but also her understanding that their sacrifices had made her own journey possible. Your species builds on the achievements of the past to reach toward the future, Zexthal said. You are never truly alone because you carry the strength of all who came before. Yes, Amanda replied, and that is why you cannot dominate my mind. You are not just facing me. You are facing the accumulated wisdom and strength of the entire human species. The alien realized with growing horror that he was not just trapped in Amanda's individual consciousness. He was encountering the collective human experience that lived within her. Every human carried within them the lessons learned by their ancestors, the wisdom gained through millennia of struggle and growth. This is impossible, Sextil gasped. No individual mind can contain so much. Human minds can, Amanda replied, because we understand that individual strength comes from collective wisdom. We are all connected, all part of something greater than ourselves. The alien felt Amanda's consciousness beginning to show him something that his species had never experienced, the power of hope. Not hope as a simple emotion, but hope as a choice, a decision to believe in possibilities even when evidence suggested otherwise. Your species chooses hope over logic, Sextil said with amazement, even when reason says you should despair. Hope is not the opposite of logic, Amanda replied. Hope is the decision to act as if good things are possible. It is the choice to build a better future, even when the present seems dark. For the first time in his existence, Sextil began to understand that he had not invaded a single mind, but had entered into contact. Sextil found himself completely lost in the labyrinth of Amanda's consciousness, no longer able to distinguish between his own thoughts and the flood of human memories that surrounded him. The alien had entered her mind expecting to find weakness and chaos, but instead he had discovered a form of strength that his species could never comprehend. You cannot escape because you do not understand what you have entered, Amanda's voice said gently around him. You thought you were invading one mind, but you have touched the collective soul of humanity. This is impossible, Sextil gasped, feeling his own mental barriers beginning to crack under the pressure of human emotional complexity. No individual can contain the experiences of an entire species. We all contain them, Amanda replied. Every human carries within them the wisdom of those who came before, the dreams of those who will come after, and the strength of all who struggle alongside us now. The alien found himself experiencing Amanda's memory of her first time seeing Earth from space, but this time he felt not just her individual awe, but the collective wonder of every human who had ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of touching them. He felt the accumulated dreams of millions of people who had gazed at the night sky and imagined what lay beyond. Your species dreams together, Sextil said with growing amazement. Each individual carries the hopes of all. Yes, Amanda replied, and that is why you cannot break us. When you attack one human, you attack all of us. The alien experienced Amanda's memory of reading about the Holocaust, survivors who had rebuilt their lives after unimaginable horror, about the slaves who had found freedom through courage and determination, about the countless ordinary people who had chosen to help others even when they had nothing left to give. They suffered, and yet they chose to hope, Sextil said, his voice filled with wonder. They were broken, and yet they chose to build. That is what humans do, Amanda replied. We find strength in our wounds, wisdom in our pain, and hope in our darkest moments. The alien found himself in Amanda's memory of her grandmother's final words, but now he understood them differently. When the old woman had said that humans always find a way to create light in darkness, she had not been speaking of individual strength, but of the collective human spirit that refused to be extinguished. Your grandmother was telling you about something that exists in every human, Sextil realized. A light that cannot be put out. Yes, Amanda said. And now you are going to learn what that light really is. Suddenly, Sextil found himself surrounded by memories that were not Amanda's alone, but belonged to the entire human experience. He saw the first humans who had tamed fire, who who had painted on cave walls, who had looked at the stars and wondered what they were. He felt their curiosity, their determination, their refusal to accept limits. "This is your true strength," the alien said with growing understanding. "Not your technology or your weapons, but your refusal to surrender to despair. Now you begin." "To understand," Amanda replied, "we are not the chaotic, inferior species you thought we were. We are something your people have never encountered. A species that grows stronger through struggle, that finds unity in diversity, that creates hope from hopelessness." The alien experienced the collective human memory of every time someone had stood up to oppression, every moment when people had chosen love over hate, every instance when humans had sacrificed themselves for others. He felt the accumulated strength of every person who had ever refused to give up. "You transform your enemies into allies," Zexthel said with amazement. "You change hearts through understanding." "That is what I am doing to you now," Amanda replied gently. "I am not trying to destroy you or dominate you. I am trying to help you understand what you really are." The alien felt Amanda's consciousness, reaching out to him with something he had never experienced before: forgiveness. Despite his invasion of her mind, despite his attempts to dominate her, she was offering him understanding and compassion. "You forgive me," Zexthel said, his voice filled with wonder. "Even after what I've done to you." "Forgiveness is not about forgetting the harm that was done," Amanda replied. "It is about choosing to believe that people can change, that understanding can replace fear, that love can overcome hate." The alien felt his own rigid mental structures beginning to dissolve under the gentle pressure of Amanda's compassion. For the first time in his existence, he experienced what humans called empathy, the ability to feel what another being felt, to understand their perspective, to care about their well-being. "What is happening to me?" Zexthel asked, frightened by the unfamiliar emotions flooding through him. "You are learning to be human," Amanda replied, "not in body, but in spirit. You are discovering what it means to connect with another being instead of dominating them." Meanwhile, back in the medical bay, Kevin Park had finally figured out how to disrupt the alien's mental connection. "I think I can break the link," he told Dr. Paul Chun. "But we need to do it carefully, or we might damage both their minds." "Do," Commander Burke ordered. "Amanda's body can't take much more of this." Kevin activated the electromagnetic pulse he had designed to interfere with Zilithian neural patterns. The effect was immediate. Both Amanda and Zexthel convulsed as their mental connection was severed. Amanda's eyes opened slowly, and she looked around the medical bay with confusion. "What happened?" she asked weakly. "You were unconscious for over 2 hours," Paul said, checking her vital signs with obvious relief. "The alien did something to your mind." Amanda turned to look at Zexthel, who was sitting up in his stasis chamber, with an expression of complete bewilderment. The alien's silver eyes no longer glowed with arrogant power, but seemed almost human in their vulnerability. "I understand now," Zexthel said quietly, his mental voice reaching all the humans in the owl room. "I came here believing that your species was inferior, that your thoughts were chaotic and weak. But I was wrong." "What did you learn?" Amanda asked gently. "I learned that strength does not come from dominance, but from connection," the alien replied. "I learned that what I saw as chaos was actually complexity beyond my comprehension. I learned that your species has developed something mine never could, the ability to transform suffering into wisdom, fear into courage, and enemies into friends." Commander Burke stepped forward cautiously. "Are you still a threat to us?" "No," Zexthel replied. "I could never be a threat to you again, because I now understand what you truly are. You are not a species to be conquered. You are a species to be learned from." Amanda stood up slowly, still weak from the mental ordeal. "What will you do now?" "I will stay with you, if you will have me," the alien said. I will learn more about your people, about your ways of thinking and feeling, and I will try to become worthy of the gift you have given me. What gift? Amanda asked. The gift of understanding, Zexthul replied. For the first time in my existence, I understand that there are forms of intelligence and strength that cannot be measured or controlled. You have shown me that true power comes not from dominating others, but from connecting with them. Captain Morrison arrived in the medical bay just as Amanda was explaining what had happened. So the alien is no longer hostile? He asked. No, sir, Amanda replied. He has experienced something that his species has never encountered: human compassion and forgiveness. It has changed him fundamentally. Zexthul stood up from his chamber and approached the humans slowly. I must send a message to my people, he said. They must know that humanity is not to be underestimated. Any Zilithian who attempts to dominate a human mind does so at their own peril. What will you tell them? Burke asked. I will tell them that in the apparent chaos of human consciousness lies a strength that can break even the most powerful mental chains, the alien replied. I will tell them that your species has mastered something we never could, the art of finding light in darkness, hope in despair, and strength in unity. Amanda looked at Zexthul with the same curiosity she had always shown toward new forms of life. Would you like to work with us? She asked. We could learn from each other. Yes, the alien replied. I would like that very much. As the crew of the New Horizon prepared to continue their mission, they carried with them the knowledge that they had achieved something unprecedented. They had transformed an enemy into Fod, an ally through understanding rather than force. And in the depths of space, Zexthul began to learn what it truly meant to be part of something greater than himself, to be connected to others not through domination, but through the simple, powerful act of caring about their well-being. The message he sent to his people was simple but profound. Beware the humans, for they possess a strength we cannot comprehend, the strength of a species that refuses to be broken, that finds hope in hopelessness, and that can transform their greatest enemies into their closest friends through the simple act of understanding.